The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.
Welcome to the Tim Heale Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to have a chat with Simone. Simone's going to tell us all about her life. So Simone, if you could tell me when and where you were born, and if you can describe what it was like where you grew up, the schools you went to, and the education that you received. So Simone, you're in the room.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here today.
You're welcome.
So I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I was born in March 23rd, 1972. I just celebrated my 50th birthday.
Whoa, a big one.
Yeah, it was a big one, but it's just a birthday, right? So, but
A year older.
Yeah, a year older. And it seems to go by much faster every year. I'm like, how is this
Tell me about it.
happening?
But the thing is, I don't know whether you've noticed, you might have a number there, but up here is telling down here a totally different thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm like, wait, I'm how old? Wait, my knee doesn't work anymore. Tell me more, right? Like, it's funny how it works. But yeah, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and I loved living there as a child. Yes, there was tons of snow, but it was great in the winter. We had a lake that would freeze over. We would ice skate and go sledding. And so I was there until I finished 8th grade. And so I went to actually 2 different schools. They were both private schools. My parents were both physicians, and they were really big on education, and that's what they wanted us to do. So that's what we did. And then when I was going into high school, my parents moved to Gainesville, Florida. I was at summer camp and I got a call that said, "Hey, we've sold the house and we're moving to Florida." That was not.
Did they give you the address?
Yeah, well, they had to take me. I was still young, so, but that was a hard thing at that age to going into high school, and they put me in another private school, which was great, but all the kids had been together for a really long time, so it was a struggle. And also, my sister was about to start her senior year, so she actually stayed behind in Buffalo and lived with a family because they didn't want to move her during her senior year.
So Buffalo, let's have a look at. So during the winter time, you get lots of snow and stuff. So how far was the school away, and did you go to school on skis?
The school was probably 25, 30 minutes away. And no, it was either we took the bus or we didn't go. So there was, we did have a time where we had or a few times where the lakes next door would overflow and people would go through the streets by boat, but never by skis. I went to school, so.
Hang on, I've got lots of noise going on outside. I don't know if you can hear it on here, but
no. Sounds nice and quiet.
So.
And then moved to Gainesville.
Let's. Or should we carry on a little bit with Buffalo? I mean, so the 8th grade. What age were you when you left then?
I was 13.
Oh,
and
so
then
we've got a lot to do in those previous years. So what was your favourite subject in there?
I'm 50. I don't remember. No, I'm kidding. I actually liked math, and it was something that I was good at. And that kind of that started my first career path. So, but yeah, I liked math. We had a really cool math teacher in middle school, and maybe that's why I liked it. But that was kind of the subject that I really focused on. Now, forget about it. Now that I haven't been doing it for a long time, my kids will ask me for help on stuff. I'm like, go ask Dad. I can't do it. I have no idea. I finished, once you get to beyond 8th grade, I'm like, nope, can't help you.
Yeah.
I don't want to relearn it either. I'm like, I don't want to relearn this.
Can't say I blame you there.
Yeah.
So I have a love-hate relationship with school. But there you go. That's a totally different story.
Yeah. Wow.
So what was your worst subject?
it's actually funny because I really struggled with grammar when I was younger. And so now it cracks me up that I wrote a book and that my kids will ask me, not that I don't make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I still make mistakes. But now my kids will ask me for the writing help, which when I was younger, I told them, I was like, I was not a good writer when I was a kid. So it's kind of nice now to have that piece. But, I stuck with it. I kept learning, kept trying. And now it's something that I really enjoy and that I pick up on mistakes now that other people haven't seen. And I'm like, oh, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. So things that I struggled with now are a strength for me.
So do you do a bit of proofreading on the side?
No, I haven't started that, but that's just like my own writing. Every time I write something, I'm like, oh, wait. And then, or I'll see a mistake and nobody will notice it. I'm like, did you see that? No, I didn't see it. It's funny when you were saying get the road on the show. I had in one of the things that in my book, I made one big mistake. There's other typos that have been corrected and there probably are still some, your brain sees what it wants to see. And I had a typo that said that I make lemonade into lemons instead of lemons into lemonade. And I didn't see it. Nobody saw it. Like even the people that were editing didn't see it. And then of course the book is like in full form. And I sent it to a friend of mine and she's like 15 minutes in and she sends a screenshot. Did you mean to say this? I was like, actually, yes. Didn't you know that was my superpower? I can turn lemonade back into lemons.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
that's a proper skill.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have a touch of dyslexia. So sometimes I struggle with just normal conversation, let alone writing anything down. However, I've got 2 books on the go at the moment. It's going to take a long time to get them anywhere near ready to go, but that's another different story.
That's
so
amazing.
we're looking at your story at the moment. So
well, it's okay. We can talk about your story too.
8th grade, your parents you send you off to summer school and summer camp.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's for sort of 3 or 4 weeks, is it, in the summer?
I think I was gone for about 6 weeks for that one. So
yeah, that's I mean that's cruel. What grown-ups do. What's that song about summer camp? Hello, mother. Hello, father.
Yeah.
I'm
Here I
calling
am
from Camp Granada. So was it a bit like that when you first got there?
You know what? I loved camp. It was complete freedom. You met great people. We did tons of outdoor stuff. We did, it was some of my best memories, honestly. So it's funny because some of my kids love camp. The other ones are like, no, I don't really want to go. So, but for me, I loved it. It was really a great, great time for me.
So it wasn't like Camp Granada for you then?
No. It was quite enjoyable.
Was it anything like band camp?
No. No, it wasn't like band camp. I stopped going when I was, after when we left Buffalo, I didn't go to camp anymore. So that summer was my last summer of camp.
Yeah. So what did you think when you got the message from your parents? Oh, by the way, we've sold the house and we're moving to Florida. We're not going to send you the address.
I mean, I knew that they were looking, but I didn't know we were looking at Florida at that point. Like we had gone to visit in Georgia, and so that it was a little surprising. And I mean, I knew that my parents wanted to move, but it's never easy when you're a kid and you're so stuck in your ways of friendship and what you're used to at your school. And it's hard, especially middle school and high school are tough times for kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's difficult when you stay at the same place and you fall out with friends and that sort of thing naturally happens. But then to up sticks at 13 and move halfway down the country. It's not across the country, is it? It's down the country.
Down the country.
Buffalo down to Florida.
Yes.
And to start fresh at a new school. How did you find that?
Yeah, I found it difficult. For one thing, one of the funniest things for me was that, I was from Buffalo and I knew cold weather. And I swear, I think my first year in Florida, I could not stop sweating. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Just wasn't used to it. It was so hot, so humid. I was like, how do people live here? And now I can't imagine living anywhere else but Florida. But, you get used to it. But it was hard because, again,
Yeah.
like the things we were like, okay, just start school. It's fine. I think about the kids who, move around a lot. And, there's kids that start new schools multiple times in a year or,
Yeah.
every year they start a different school. And it's really hard. And luckily, it works out fine, but it was
Yeah.
not an easy adjustment at first.
So did the other kids take the mickey out of you during the midst of winter down in Florida? You're walking around in shorts and a t-shirt, and everybody's got their big coats on and everything.
That's one of the
Can
funniest
just
things
see it.
about Florida when it gets, a little chilly. And when I say chilly, it's nobody else would think it was cold. All of a
Mm.
sudden, people start putting on their boots and they're wearing their sweaters, and you're thinking, really, it's not that cold out. But I've gotten used to that now. So now I
Yeah.
definitely get colds. Where
Yeah.
that year I was super hot. Now as soon as it gets a
Now
little
you're just
chilly,
cool.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I can wear a sweater today.
Yeah. I'm just cool like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
So going through, so I guess that was junior high, was it?
Yes.
When you got down there.
Yeah.
So I guess there have been quite a few other kids that are new to that school joining at the same time. So
Not too
is
many.
that
It
no?
was no,
Does
it
that
was
all come up
because it
from
was
the
a very
same?
small private school. So,
Ah,
um, I think a couple of the kids were maybe new, but I wasn't the cheerleader. I rode horses, which was kind of like my saving grace, I would say. It was something that really made me happy. I made a lot of friends through horseback riding and I made some friends at school too. It wasn't that I didn't, but that wasn't I was ready to get out. So I did 3 years and I actually skipped my last year of high school and I went early admission to college for my first year. I went to Auburn University and after that I transferred back to the University of Florida.
all right. So what did you study?
Well, the plan was to study. I was going to be pre-med and I was going to be a doctor. Both my parents are doctors. My sister ended up going back to medical school. And so that was what I thought I was going to do. And then I failed organic chemistry. And then I took it again and I got a D. And I was like, okay, I don't think this is for me. So, and what was I good at? I was good at math. So I went into accounting and I became a CPA,
Ah, what's a CPA?
certified public accountant.
Oh, so you can cook the books.
I can cook the books, but I don't do that anymore either. Like what do? I do public speaking and I'm an author. So I'm a big believer in it's okay to change your mind many times. And we put so much pressure on kids to figure out what they want to do, what they have to do right when they get to college. And,
Yeah.
I'm 50. I just figured it out a few years ago, what I'm passionate about and what I'm good at.
Mm. So I guess from that point of view, you've lifelong learning has brought you around to what you actually want to do. So how long did it take you to gain that CPA qualification?
So I did a program that was a 5-year program. And so it was undergraduate and graduate combined. It was called a 3-2 program. So you did your undergraduate and then you did your graduate and you got them both at the same time. You got both degrees at the same time. And then a bunch of us took the CPA exam right before graduation. So, and I passed it. So I had it all in 5 years.
Excellent. So what was your first job?
My first job was working at a small accounting firm in Tyler, Texas. So after we finished, so I married my husband while I was in college, he was in residency, he's a physician. And so my first job was when we moved he joined a practice in Texas and I worked for a bit as a CPA at that firm.
Hmm. So whereabouts in Texas did you move to?
So it's called Tyler, Texas. It's about 90 miles east of Dallas. It's East Texas. It was very beautiful there.
Mm-hmm.
And we
You
were
have to
there for about 5 years.
Yeah. So do you have to drive out through past South Fork?
No.
That's lost, isn't it, that one?
No.
I guess you never watched that film,
Nope.
Dallas,
Nope.
or that program?
I never did actually, which is funny. It was like such a big thing when I was younger, but it's not my thing.
Yeah. Okay, so how long was you at that firm?
Oh, maybe a year. And then I, again, changing my mind, I had my first child. And then maybe it was 2 years actually. I had my first child. And then I decided that I wasn't going to go back to accounting because I didn't love it. And we ended up buying a horse farm, and I ended up teaching horseback riding lessons and boarding horses and running events there and doing a summer camp. And I actually really loved that. But then
Right.
we moved back to Florida after that.
How long did you run the horse farm for?
About 3 years.
And was it sort of proper Western style horse riding with proper cowboy stuff, or was it more conventional with the sort of horse jumping and in
Yeah,
that set?
it was more of the dressage and jumping. So
All
that's
right.
what I knew from growing up. And, definitely the area I was in, there was a lot more Western, but that's what I loved. So that's what I did.
So you're doing sort of dressage and having competitions and stuff. So I guess there wasn't a huge amount of competition. Texas is known for its cowboys and rodeo and stuff like that. So was there a big calling for that dressage show jumping in the area?
Yeah, I mean, more so in Dallas. So, the students that I had, if you wanted to go to any kind of shows, most of it was in a bigger city. It just wasn't happening because again, where I was, it was mostly Western riding. So,
Yeah.
but I taught mostly children and I loved it. It was a lot of fun and it was really rewarding. You would see kids who would come with like, I don't want to say zero self-confidence, but really struggling with their self-confidence. And there's this thing about being around horses where all of a sudden you feel like if you have this huge animal next to you and they're listening to you, and it gives you
Mhm.
that self-confidence that you may not have had in other aspects of your life, and then it moves forward and kind of pours out into the other parts of your life. So that was really always fun to see these kids who would come in so timid and shy, and then all of a sudden, they would break out through their
Yeah.
shell and they'd be really really strong. And one of the best things about that part of my life was seeing that in these kids.
Mm. So what sort of horses? I mean, because Texas is famous for its quarter horses, but I guess they're not ideal for show jumping and dressage because they're short, stocky working horses. So
Yeah.
where did you source your horses from? How
Mm.
many did you have?
Ah. So, for a while, it depends. I mean, some of them I got through, I would still ride with a trainer as well. So the horses that I would ride to compete on was through the trainer that I had. And then, I would there were all different kinds of sales. You'd just be looking through, websites or back then the newspaper to see what was available. And most of the horses were probably thoroughbreds or they were mixes. Honestly, with children, you wanted things that were really horses that were really quiet and calm. We had some of those and we had some crazy ones. But at one point, I think I had about 20 horses. So I had a
Oh,
lot. It was a
so
lot
did
of
you own
work.
them all? Did you
Yeah.
own them all, or did you have livery as well?
Yeah, I had both. So I still probably owned about 20, and then we had several people that would keep their horses there, and pay to board them there, which
Hmm.
again, it was, really nice, but it's a job that never ends because you're worried, you're getting
Well,
up in the middle of the night, you're checking, you're cleaning the stalls, and, I would be,
yeah.
before we moved, I was pregnant with my second child, and I was going up to the barn at 9 o'clock at night, almost 9 months pregnant,
Yeah.
mucking the stalls. And my husband's like, "This is hilarious, actually." I was like, "Come help me." He did, actually. He was very good about it. So,
Brilliant. So why did you give it up?
well, we moved to Florida. My husband decided that he wanted to join a different practice. It it wasn't what we were used to. We wanted to be closer to our family, and so we moved to Florida. We moved back, and
Yeah.
it's so funny when you're younger, you think, "Oh, I've spent too much time here. I wanna do something completely different." And then you grow up and say, "Oh, you know what? It was pretty good here. I wanna go back." So
Yeah.
that's what we did. We moved to, where we are now, and that's where, my parents lived, and also, my husband's parents lived. So it was
Mm.
really nice with the grandkids.
Yeah. And I guess that takes care of sort of babysitter worries occasionally.
Yeah, no, they were big help, when the kids were young. They were built-in babysitters. We would just
Mm.
call and say, "We'll be over there at 6 o'clock." And, it really it was really special for our kids, and it really made our lives so much easier.
Yeah. So what did you do? Were you a stay-at-home mum looking after kids, or did you um, want to sort of carry on and maybe get a few more horses and carry on that side of life?
Yeah, so I stayed at home for a bit and then had a 3rd child, and I was flipping houses. I mean, it's funny, I look back at all the things that I've done, and, um, I'm not sure why I don't like to be bored. Like, most people would be like, "Oh, I wish I had nothing to do today." And that's just not my personality. Like, I feel like I always have to be doing something, and even when I'm doing things, sometimes I feel like it's still not enough. But
Mm.
that's just me.
Yeah.
So I went,
Oh,
I stayed at home for a bit, and then, um, started flipping houses, and then from there, I actually, went back to school to be a teacher.
all right. So how long did that take?
So it was because I already had a bachelor's and a master's, I had to just do the credits that I needed for the education side. So it took year and a half, and I
Mm.
took night classes, and it was I, another thing that I really, really enjoyed doing. But by then I had 6 children, and so I had to have a babysitter when I went to work. Some of the kids were still young, and just the picking up and dropping off aspect, because I had to be at work really early and I would stay
Yeah.
later than the hours. So it made it really difficult. So I taught for about 3 years, and then uh, my husband and I had a conversation, and that we're paying the babysitter more than I'm making. So I should probably reconsider. And I did. And then I went into medical sales. So,
It's a
and that
bit
was more
different.
flexible. Yeah.
So 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 you got no training at all in medical as such. So you've been an accountant, you've been a riding instructor and stable owner, and then a
It's
teacher,
funny,
and then
right?
you
Yeah.
and then you start flogging medical equipment.
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Why not, right?
um,
I mean,
why not?
so I had a friend
It's a job.
who had a business, and she asked me if I'd be interested in, being a rep for it. And I said, yeah. And it was great. There were parts that I didn't love. Like,
Mm.
I'm not a pushy salesperson. So if you're not interested, I'm not gonna, you know,
Yeah, not gonna twist your arm up your back and
no.
force you to buy
Um,
something.
But it was a good perspective on stuff, and it was something I learned a lot from. And, I really enjoyed talking to people and hearing their stories, and that was kind of like starting to think about, "Hey, wait, what can we do with these stories?" Right? Like, it's so
Yeah.
important that we share our stories with other people, and everybody has a story. There was one day I was walking down one of the halls with my husband, and they there were people that would say, "Hey, Simone, hey, Simone, hey, Simone." And my husband's like, "How do you know all these people?" I was like, "Because I talk to them." He's like, "I've been here 20 years." And I was like, "Because you walk with your head down. Like you
Yeah,
have to meet these people. They're amazing. And they have these great stories. And I've learned so much." So um, that was one of probably my favorite things is the people that I got to work with. So
fantastic. So tell me about 6 kids, because you had 3. How'd you manage to another 3? What happened there?
yeah. So we had 3, and then we decided that we wanted to adopt. So we adopted our son Noah from South Korea. He was a baby. He was 4 months old when he came home. And when he was about 2, we said we want to adopt again, and because life wasn't crazy enough. It was really crazy, actually. Like life was complete chaos at that point. But when you have chaos, what's a little bit more?
Yeah, yeah.
So we decided to adopt again, and this time we chose Ethiopia. And so we adopted our son Ari. He was 4.5 years old when we brought him home. And that was a moment where it was amazing to see the world through his eyes, right? Like he grew up in a mud hut. He didn't have
Yeah.
electricity or running water, truly, truly starving when he came home. They didn't have enough food.
Mhm.
But seeing him experience a water fountain for the first time or going on the airplane, flushing the toilet, like all things that, we've just, okay, this is just what we do. But really seeing him experience those things was amazing. But when we were at the orphanage, we had brought our 2 older daughters with us, and we said that when we left, we said we were going to come back again. We were going to adopt one more time because the kids were just such amazing children, and they're just waiting for a family to love them.
Yeah. So you went back and got another one?
So we applied again. You have to go. There's a big process that
Yeah.
the paperwork I have is like stacks and stacks of paperwork. Um, and so, yeah, we decided we're going to do it one last time. We still had, we had one extra seat in the minivan. And so we figured like, let's fill it. And so we applied again for an older boy, and we got matched with our daughter, Millie, and she was 2.5 years old at the time.
Hmm. So I suppose it was kind of almost a full-time job just filling out the paperwork.
It was a lot of paperwork. It's so funny because I was the paperwork person. And
Mm.
so my husband would sign stuff and he'd be like, he looked at the stack one day. He's like, I had no idea. He's like, I'm signing one here, one there. I didn't realize
Mm.
like in the end, how much work went into all of that. And, it is, but you have to go through the steps to make sure that it's a really strong process.
Hmm. So let's have a look at, I saw mentioned Kilimanjaro. Now that's quite a big lump of real estate in the middle of Africa.
Yep.
So how did that come about? Why did you want to walk to the top of that?
It's a great question.
Oh no,
So
I just asked it.
yeah, well, for those of you who see me, I am not a super athlete. That is not, I rode horses. There's a lot of things that I've done, but I was never a big athlete. And we had a friend who had climbed it the year before with a volunteer, a charity that he
Mm.
was raising money for. And he called my husband and said, "Hey, they're putting together a team for next year. Would you be interested?" And of course, the way I tell the story is my husband said, 1, 2, 3. No, thank you. Call Simone, see if she's interested. And my husband's like, I don't think I'd said it like that. I was like, yeah, you had no interest in doing it. Don't try to pretend you do. You did not want to sleep in a tent and struggle breathing. And now I think he would like to do it since I did it. But
Hmm.
yeah, and so they called me and I said, yeah, I think I really want to do this. I want to push myself. I think I struggled so long believing in myself that this was a moment where I really wanted to say to myself, you can do this. it's not just setting the goal, it's putting the work in behind the goal. I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we forget that part. We're like, oh, we set a goal and we failed. Well, no, like you got to look at, and it's okay to fail. That's just part of life. That's really, happens every day. But really setting that goal and putting in the work to get there was what was really important to me.
So what was involved in the training? I mean, it's no mean feat having to wander up a big lump of real estate like Mount Kilimanjaro. It's what is it, about 5,000 meters high, something like that.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
a little bit over 5,000. Yeah. So
yeah,
19,341 feet. So you can do my conversion for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Divided by 3.
Yeah. So I mean, I had 6 months from the time I signed up to train. And basically I committed to being in the gym every single day. And I would walk on the treadmill at full incline. I actually went to a boxing gym and I would wear this elevation training mask. And now it would be popular actually, because, it's okay to wear masks, but people looked at me like I was crazy. It
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
looked like a gorilla. So I picked the gorilla model. So it looked really attractive. And they have these valves and you switch out the valves to kind of mimic,
Reduce the amount of airflow. Yeah,
yeah. And obviously it doesn't deal with the elevation change and
no,
the low, so that your body has to do when it gets there. But it helped me build lung capacity, which I think was really important and really, really helped me. So I would wear it when I was boxing and I'd be like, could barely breathe. And, and my kids would be embarrassed. They're like, she's wearing that thing again. I'd wear it throughout the house and,
yeah.
but it really helped. So
Well, now, did you do it for a charity? Did you raise funds for a charity, or did you just pay the fee and do it?
I raised funds for the charity, and actually, my biggest help fundraising was my youngest daughter. She did some videos for me with a globe showing people where I was going. She was little at the time, and at the time, she didn't mind being videoed. Now that she's 14, she's like,
She's
don't
not.
put me on your social media.
She's not an influencer. She's not a YouTuber. Then
No,
she's not all over TikTok and Twitter.
no, she'll make like she's like, I'm gonna make a TikTok, and then she never publishes it. She literally deletes it every time. She just likes singing along to the songs, but she doesn't want to be out there, which is probably smart. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so she
So,
was she definitely, you have a little kid who's saying, my mom is going to climb this mountain, and people are like, oh yeah, we'll give money.
yeah.
So she was a big help. And I went with there were 16 of us. I didn't know anybody. And I was paired up with a woman named Rhonda, who is a breast cancer survivor. And she was amazing. She was my roommate. She was my tent mate. So not only am I going with strangers, but now I'm sleeping in a room with someone I don't know. And we hit it off, and it was great. She comes down to Florida probably once a
Just
year.
as
And so I
well.
still get to see her. Yeah. And so that was another really interesting piece, is that really not just meeting new people for the first time, and you're now climbing a mountain with them, and you have to
Mm,
figure out, how are we going to lead? How's this going to work? How do we work together? It's not like you're in a boardroom and you can just walk away. You're there, and you have to figure out the best way to work with the people that you're with. And not only that, I think what was really, really special for me is that it was so motivational, because there were several people on the trip. We were raising funds for the Live Strong Foundation.
mm.
So there were people that were cancer survivors on our trip. They were also climbing for someone that may have had cancer, or was in treatment right now, or had passed away. So it was motivational, it was inspirational, all of it, because it's even more motivation to make it to the top,
Yeah.
because you want to support each other, as a community, as a team.
So they're all fairly driven people to start with. Now, did you have any pre-meetups before going to just to sort of get to know the group, to do any team building prior to putting the first step forward uphill?
No, we did not. But part of it is because, we were all over the country. So it wasn't like we were all from one location where it would make it easier to do that. We had a couple of phone calls right before, and we had like an email chat. Back then it was an email chat. So, but it made for like a really amazing experience. I mean, it's funny when you look at it and think, okay, climbing a mountain is one thing. Climbing a mountain with people you don't know, that's another thing. But I think it really made it that much more special.
Yeah. So what, I mean, 16 people split down into two, so sort of two or eight two-man teams, was it? Or were you
Well, we all went together. We were together
just,
for all of it. We had,
yeah,
multiple guides and porters, obviously, that would help us. And I have to tell you that to me, they're not porters. They are amazing athletes. They are amazing humans that they do these treks all of the time. And the way the shape that they're in and the strength that they have and the risks that they take to help other people, it is
mm,
really an amazing thing to be part of.
yeah. So you had bearers. So how much equipment did you actually carry yourself? Did you just have your personal kit and a bottle of water or something, or did you have a massive, great big Bergen on your back, carrying about 50 pounds?
So we had, I think, I can't remember the exact weight limit, but the most I think we could carry was around 25 pounds. Um, because there's a limit for it's a protected area. And so there was only it was literally the climbers can only have this much, or the hikers can only have this much, and then the porters carry the rest.
Yeah,
And it was still heavy. Most of it is water. You carry the stuff that you need for the day,
yeah,
but you have so much water in there to get you through it, because obviously that's what you have to be doing the entire time, is drinking water constantly
mm,
so that your body stays hydrated, obviously. So
yeah. So how many days did it take you from start at the bottom to get to the top?
5 days, 5 days up. So we went
And how many days to come back down again?
2 days.
So coming down is a lot quicker than going up.
Yeah, except it was really honestly, I mean, it was still hard for me. It was quite hard coming down because I had a couple of knee surgeries. And
Mm,
so my knee was very swollen by the time we started to come back down. And so really towards the end, I was very much hobbling to just finish. And we got to one campsite, and one of the guys was like, "Do you want to get a four-wheeler or three-wheeler to take you down?" I was like, "No way." I was like, "I've come this far. I made it to the top. I'm gonna make it back to the bottom." I was like, "I'll hobble my way."
yeah. I mean, you can do it generally on broofing.
Well,
That's the military way of doing
yeah.
things. And pop a couple of days and carry on.
Yeah, I know. But it was obviously the going up part was I had done a good job working out. So I was
Yeah.
in the shape that I needed to be in. Doesn't mean I didn't struggle completely. We all struggled. I had a stomach bug at one point. That was one of the worst things, because you're drinking water from whatever sources they find nearby, and they treat it with some kind of chemicals. It was iodine was part of it, but to kill whatever bacteria is in there. But there's still a chance you're going to get something. And I did, and that was probably one of the hardest parts, was being sick while you're climbing. So,
Yeah. There's nothing worse than having a bit of touch of the squits.
oh gosh. And, and there's no toilets, there
Oh,
was like
takes
a
the
little
fun out of it.
portable one. There was,
Here's a shovel.
yeah, exactly. Just go. Got pretty good at that. So,
Yeah.
It-
So I always find coming down is a lot harder than going up, actually. I've done a fair amount of ill work in my time, and I always find it difficult coming down. I mean, it's harder on your knees, I think, coming down, and your hips and your back and your shoulders, and somebody's. When I used to do it, somebody always used to take the mickey and give you far too much weight to carry. I mean, carrying a minimum of 56 kilos.
wow. Wow.
I mean, that's the bare minimum. If you haven't got that weight, then you ain't then you fail. But
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
when I was in Afghanistan, I was going out on foot patrols carrying 42 kilos.
Wow.
We'd go out on a patrol carrying 42 kilos. We came in off of one patrol with carrying next to nothing because we'd expanded all the ammunition and most of the water. In
Oh,
fact, all
wow.
of the water. We'd run out of
Yeah.
water, and we were very, very nearly running out of ammunition. But we got back in, and we didn't lose anybody, but we dropped a few of the enemy,
Wow.
and that
Wow.
was a tough day.
Yeah.
So you completed it. Did you get the certificate and everything saying that you
Yeah. I got a
completed it?
certificate. Woohoo. It's like, graduating high school, graduating
Yeah.
college, got my certificate.
So
Yeah, I mean,
that's gone up in the toilet with the rest of them.
yeah, it's in my file, right? Certain things are hanging on my wall. That one should be, but it's I have it filed away. So, but yeah, it was, it's a special thing. It was really a moment where I said to myself that
You can do it.
you did it. You can do
Yeah.
any of these things. Like, stop doubting yourself. Pick things that are realistic. I'm not going to do K2 like that. That
Well,
I'm not a climber. So, like, for me to, yes, if
you
I want
didn't
to do
feel
that,
you didn't feel overly inspired to go do all the Munros and climb
you know,
all these other mountains in the world, doing Everest.
the hard thing is I have 6 kids. So it was funny because when I got
Yeah.
back, my daughter, who is now 19, she was saying, "Oh, you should do Everest. You should do Everest." And then there was that, um, there was a earthquake. I don't know if you remember that, and it was bad. And
Yeah.
so my daughter's like, "No, don't even think about training for that. You still have to deal with us. Like, there's too many of us. Like, if
Yeah.
something happens to you, what are we gonna do?" I'm like, "You got dad." They're like, "Yeah, but we don't have you." So,
So you came back from Kilimanjaro, and I guess life sort of got back to some sort of normality.
yeah, it was, "You did it, you did it, you did it. Okay, what's next? What are you doing next?" And I was like,
What's the next
I'm just
challenge?
tired right now. Like, I don't have a plan yet." Um, but, so I got back into uh, daily life. And then, I started doing more volunteer work also. And then that's kind of when I started to realize that I really love sharing my stories and that I like being on stage speaking, which, like my husband would say, I can't imagine anything worse. He's like, "Who wants to do something like that?" I'm like, "I do. I like it. I really do." Because you realize that with your stories, you can inspire other people. And it took me a long time to realize that, again, that self-doubt piece of that your story can make a difference in someone else's life. And, um, and after being touched by other people's stories, that was kind of a moment where I said, this is what you should be doing. You should be sharing your stories, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. You
Yeah.
should. And then the more I did that, the more people said, you should write a book. And I thought, I'm not a writer. Again, limiting myself. I'm not a writer. But then I said, why not? Why
Yeah.
shouldn't I? Like, why can't I? Do I want to do it? Sure. Am I going to put in the work? Yes. Okay. Make a schedule, make it happen.
Yeah, look at me. I've been up Kilimanjaro and back down again. I can do it.
Yeah. So
So that's it.
It was funny because I said to my husband, I think I want to write a book. And he was like, I'm going to start by saying, you're not really a writer, but I think it's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to read it. And, he's always been super supportive. So it was just funny how he said it. And I was like, yeah, I get that, but, I can be. And I did. And actually, when he read it, I was really particular about not letting anybody read it ahead of time, because when you're telling stories, right, there's three sides to a story, right? So it's all about perspective. And so I knew if I started asking the kids or my husband, hey, what do you think about this? They'd be like, well, that's not how I remember it.
Yeah.
So just like the Kilimanjaro piece where I said my husband counted to 3 and said, no, thank you, call Simone. And he's like, I don't remember it like that. So, so my daughter Olivia, who's 19, she actually did help me a little bit because she was really good with word choice. So when I was struggling, I'd say to her, what do you think about this? And she'd come back and say, I think this would be better. I'm like, ooh, I like that better. So she was really,
only
really
use
helpful.
those more descriptive words.
Yeah. So, and then, when I got a copy of the book and, I sent it to my husband and said, here, read it. And he was really cute. He read it twice in one night and he cried both times. And he's like, I know I've lived through all these stories, but just reading them and thinking back, he's like, it's like experiencing them for the first time. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, but I bet he didn't pick up on the lemon bit.
No, he didn't. He didn't see it either. I was like, did you see this? He's like, no, I didn't see it. But a lot of times, it's
He didn't
interesting.
pay attention, did he?
Well, you talk about dyslexia. So my son, who is 18, has dyslexia. And when we would read together, it's always really interesting to hear him, because I remember one time he was reading something to me and the word was couch and he said sofa. So his brain was compensating, like the brain knew. So, I think a lot of times we'll look at something and we see it the way we think we're supposed to see it. And so that's why I think nobody caught it except for my one friend. I was like, you get a prize.
Take 2 house points, go to the front of the class, and you may give out the pencils.
Yes, there we go. You too may start writing.
Yes.
So yeah, but so that was really special, honestly, to have him read it and give me that feedback. And yes, perspectives were different, but it's funny because I tell stories about him, and he is obviously, as a physician under pressure, he is super strong. But what's fascinating to me, again, we're all human, right? So we all have our things that we struggle with or that bother us, but when one of the kids gets injured and there's blood, it's like he's a whole different human. He's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, Rob, okay, what is happening here? And he's like, this is really bad. I was like, you can't say that. You're freaking out the kid. Pretend it's like a real patient. You wouldn't do that. But he, it's funny. And so we actually had something happen about a year ago. So this is post a book. And I call him and I said, so I need to show you something that's happening. Noah hit his foot and there's a lot of blood. And he said, I promise I won't freak out. And I said, okay, I'm going to put you on FaceTime then so you can see the situation and tell me what you want me to do. And it was so funny. He's like, I promise I won't freak out. So that's like the new thing is after, I don't think he realized, that he was like freaking out so bad when one of the kids would get injured. So, and he didn't freak out. I showed him that he's like, okay, I'm coming home. I got to take him to the hospital. And so, but he didn't freak out.
So that worked then. That's positive from the book.
Yeah. Maybe I should write about how doors don't get closed in the house, everything or closes on the floor. Maybe if I write about that will go away too.
Yeah. That could work.
Yeah. You never know.
Kids don't clean up after themselves.
Yeah.
They expect the fairies to do it.
Oh, yeah. Well, because there's always a fairy that shows up, she might be a week late, but she still shows up. So,
yeah. And, I mean, you could always get a wand, I suppose, and and magic it.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, let me
Now,
know when you
talking,
find out how that works.
yeah, talking of magic, Florida, is that where they've got Warner's Harry Potter world?
Yep. In
How often
Universal
do you go?
Studios.
How many times you been? Are
Ooh,
you there all the time? You've got season
no,
tickets.
we used to when the kids were younger. It's funny. I think we took them so many times to things that they don't care to go anymore, except
Mm,
for like at Disney World, they have Epcot, and Epcot has all these different countries that you can, and so they have a thing where you can drink around the world. And so my kids that are old enough to drink, they're like, I want to go to Epcot and drink around the world. But the little kids are like, I don't want to go to any theme park. I don't want to wait in a line. We've seen it 500 times. But yeah, we've been there many times. And I do love the Harry Potter world
mm,
is,
yeah,
it's amazing what a good job they did with it. So, and it's a lot of fun.
it's on the bucket list. Well, I mean, I've done the Leavesden a few times now.
Mhm.
We go on their special occasions, birthdays and stuff like that, and taking the grandkids and whatnot. But yeah, I love Harry Potter,
Yeah.
and
It's like,
seen the latest film, which is really really good.
oh, the
Really
new
enjoyed. Yeah,
Fantastic
the
Beasts.
Secrets of Dumbledore.
Oh, okay. Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Good.
The second one I wasn't over keen on, but the Secrets of Dumbledore they got that right, I think.
Okay,
That's
good.
a story that's coming on quite nicely.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. Hopefully I can drag some of my kids to it,
Yeah. Well, Simone, bring us up to date. What are you up to nowadays?
So right now I am,
Talking to me?
yes, I'm talking to you. And no, I am doing public speaking. So that's like really what I love. So if anybody needs someone to speak on their stage, I'm there.
Hmm.
I am I write blog posts every week. So on my website, I try to keep that up to date. Um, and I'm enjoying life with the three kids that I still have home. I mean, it's hard to believe that in 4 years, everybody will be out. And I shouldn't say it like that because someone's going to come back, right? I mean, I actually, from the
Yeah,
time the kids were little, I was like, okay, once you leave, you can't come back. Once you leave,
yeah,
you can't come back. Oh, there's too many of you. You have to go. And of course, I'm just kidding. But
yeah,
then obviously, when uh, COVID hit, everybody came home. And I was like, I should have never said that to the kids. This was my fault. No,
yeah,
I'm kidding. But, and actually, it was it was the silver lining in everything that was happening was that everybody did come home. And my oldest son is
yeah,
25 and my youngest daughter is 14. So it was nice for everybody to be able to connect as they are now a little bit older and they're not so annoying to each other. So they actually have created these friendships that wouldn't have been there if they wouldn't have all come home during that time.
yeah.
They wouldn't have been able to experience that. So chaos,
And
yes, but it was good chaos because sometimes when I was writing, I would write in the midst of it, and it would remind me of all the stories and
mm.
help me with the details because they're doing ridiculous stuff again, and okay, gives me
So
good writing
so
material.
what was the scraps for the bathrooms like in the mornings?
Um,
Or I guess the teenagers wouldn't have been up till midday anyway.
Well, exactly. So the timing is, it was the question was always, is anybody actually going to get dressed? And the answer was no. Like, wait, we don't have to go anywhere again today. Okay, I'm just going to stay in my PJs all day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they all wake up at different times. So, and if you don't wake them up, they would probably sleep all day. So
Mhm.
it's so funny how that works as a teenager. I wish I could do that now, but it's like I
Yeah.
hit first of
No.
all, I can't sleep to begin with, but then when I do fall asleep, once I'm up, I'm up. It's like,
Oh, I
over.
have a cure for that.
Tell me.
Yeah. Um, when I got into the podcasting thing, I did 24 half-an-hour episodes of my life. So if you're struggling at getting to sleep, listen to one of those, put you out in a minute.
Ah, That's so funny. I doubt that. I doubt that. From the little bit you've shared about yourself, I'm sure it's actually very interesting. So I'll
It
listen
is,
to it while I'm awake and not trying to fall asleep.
yeah. That's probably a wise thing to do, actually. Or if you want to stay awake,
Yeah.
that could go
Well,
the other way. Yeah, keep you
yeah.
awake all night.
I'll have to do it.
Be a
I'll have to listen
nightmares.
first thing in the morning because,
Yeah.
yeah,
Once you start, it'll be on all day long.
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Simone, I really, really enjoyed your story.
Thank
It's
you.
quite inspiring. I mean, uh, Kilimanjaro itself is a massive challenge for anybody to do. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's funny. It's one of those things that I did that I didn't realize would be such a big deal to other people. Where again, I had
Mhm.
from the beginning, I had you really think you're going to make it to the top? Oh no, I think I'm going to make it halfway. That's why I'm doing this. It's
Yeah,
the questions people would ask, right? But really now that once I finished it, it was interesting how people were like, wow, wow. And I
yeah,
was like, oh, okay. I was just,
yeah,
and that's how I look at other people's lives, the things that people do. I'm like, wow, that is really impressive. That is really amazing. And I think sometimes
yeah,
people don't realize, the things that they do every day make a difference in the world.
absolutely. I mean, ordinary people have some extraordinary stories,
Yeah.
and that's where I come from.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we're all unordinary. So
Absolutely,
we're all people, but we all are unique and we all have amazing stories to share and we need to continue sharing them because that's how we change the world.
absolutely. So, thank you again.
Thanks so much for having me here.
You're welcome.
The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.